Assalamu alaikum. I had a pretty crazy epiphany and I wanted to talk about it here. I want to talk to you about overcoming fear, which might be pretty difficult for a pussy like you. But just let Uncle Boris tell you something. So, about, let's say, 7 years ago, I'm laying in a pool of my complex. We were living in a compound back then. I was thinking about going to school the next day. And I'm thinking, my life is just not good. I was like, everything in my life is just boring, falling apart. Like, my grades aren't that good. I don't have any friends. What do I do? And then I read this quote. It was on Instagram. It was so random. It said, "The cave you are afraid to enter holds the treasure you seek." And I realized at that exact moment I was thinking about possibly going to a different school that had like richer environment, people were a bit like, more normal and not crackheads. So I thought about that. And I was like, if that quote is true, this is the perfect thing I can do to change my life. Right after that, I decided to change schools. Now, as a very, very young guy at the time, and I would have been like 16, 15 or something. That was the first real decision I made on my own, without any incentives or anything like that. When I tell you my life got better, it would be a massive understatement, wallahi. The friends I made, the connections, the jobs I got through that, it's unbelievable. I was literally like I went from like the loser, like the loser at school, to being like one of the more popular guys. And my life was completely turned around. I was succeeding in every single realm at the time. And that situation stuck with me forever. So if you are right now in a situation where you're thinking about taking that next step in life, your life has been the same for the past 2 or 3 years, 4 years. You finish school and you don't know what to do. You're at school and you're a loser. This is it. Find the thing that you are most afraid to do and then go and do it. I saw another quote. I think it was from Mike Tyson. Everything you want lays on the other side of fear. I keep hearing these quotes and they just seem to align with my life really, really well. So after that situation, a few years later, I moved to a different town and I was like a complete loner. I was like, nobody knows me. Like the people there were a little bit racist, to be honest. It was a weird ass place. I was like one of the only brown people there. And I'm just at the gym, I just joined this gym. I was like really, really unfit. I wasn't unfit, but I didn't know anything about fitness, right? I'm just like doing random stuff. I see this guy there who looks exactly like Vladimir Putin, the Russian president. And I happen to speak Russian. So I thought, maybe this is my chance to make connections. Now, 99% of people, like you, the guy watching right now, you wouldn't have the balls to really talk to him because that environment was very, very, what's the word? Unsocial, antisocial, I don't know. Nobody was interacting with each other, and talking to a random person was a very unusual thing. It didn't make any sense. Like, everybody would think you're a freak. But I picked up my balls. I was like, I'm going to talk to this guy. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, excuse me, where are you from? He was like, I'm from Russia. I was like, damn, Russian. And I was like, oh, you look exactly like Putin. And then we had a laugh. I was like 17 back then, I think. We like talk, we exchanged contacts. I said, well, what do you get up to for work? And he says, oh, I own a construction company. As soon as I finished high school, and I didn't even finish high school. I was like, during the exam period, as soon as like it ends like before the year ends. Like, so after you finish school, there's like a big period where most idiots go to party and, they just like mess around, they're traveling or whatever. But I wasn't going to do none of that BS. So as soon as that finished, which was like a few months after that interaction, he picked me up in his car and then took me to work. It was like I woke up at 5 p.m., gave him a message, and he took me to work. That was a pivotal point in my life. If I hadn't made that single decision to go talk to this random guy who looks like Putin and looked like a retard, I wouldn't be right in here right now, I would argue. Because that job gave me a foundation for everything. I bought an apartment when I was 19 with the money I made from there. I found my Sambo coach, my martial arts coach, through him, because he was also Russian. He said, "Oh, if you want to learn martial arts, I know this one guy who can teach you." So connections after connections after connections. And think about this: maybe I wouldn't even done Sambo if I didn't meet this guy randomly at the gym. So when I look back at that time, my life has been so crazy. Like going to Kazakhstan, like all these competitions. Like I've had a very, very, what's the word? I've had a very, very eventful life for someone my age. And I look around the people around me, people I went to school with, my brother, my cousins. Their life has been exactly the same for the past 6 years, 5 years. They finished school, they went to uni, they got a job. Yeah, there's a bit of difference, but the routine is still the same. They do this thing for 8 hours a day, and that's it. That's the whole day done. For the rest of the day, they just mess around. Whatever. I'm not beating on them. I'm just trying to give you a comparison. And I've been thinking for a while, why are they so different from me in terms of how they live their life? After long investigation, I've concluded that it's because of these small, retarded decisions I've made. And I mean retarded in a good way. The small, weird-ass, freaky-ass... Not freaky, I'm using the wrong words. Weird-ass decisions I've made. Talking to that guy, and that's just one of the examples. I've just done these so many random things. I've signed up this competition I wasn't qualified for. I started this business I shouldn't have started. I applied for this job I wasn't qualified for. Just these random things. Like I bought this apartment. Like it just randomly. Like I own this house. Like it just, none of this would be possible if I was just a normal guy living a normal life. Everything was because of these spontaneous decisions. But you can't make any decisions like that when you have fear. And fear is the one thing that's going to make you a pussy for the rest of your life, obviously. Here's the problem with you right now. Your family probably has a pussy mindset. And I know this. Your family probably doesn't like you doing martial arts. Your family probably doesn't like you investing all your money on some business. Which maybe it's not a good idea, but you know what I mean. They probably don't like the idea of you going for jobs you're not qualified for. There's all these things. And until you learn to overcome that, your life is going to be exactly how they want it to be. You're going to be living in the exact same way as your brothers, they're like your father, their father. It's the same thing. They're following the same script. It's weird. It's really weird. So, this is the thing. There's always been two different personalities in the world. There was the capitalistic minded people, and there was the communist minds. Now, in the movie Lord of the Flies, I don't know if you've seen that, it's demonstrated very, very well. One group says, oh, we should go and hunt boars. I'm going to get like all these resources. I'm going to kill these animals. I'm going to build like this empire. The others are like, no, that's too unsafe. What if you get killed? What if he gets killed? What if someone else gets killed? We should stay safe, stay here and eat these fruits and, have this really safe lifestyle. And they have an argument and they separate. That's exactly what happens all the time. Now, generally, it's the conservatives versus the liberals. Nowadays, liberals, obviously, they've lost their minds. So I'm not talking about the modern liberals. What liberals are supposed to be about is taking risk and innovation and new things, not in an anti-Islamic way, just in a normal way, taking risks, creative ideas. And the conservatives are generally a little bit more pussy. It's funny because nowadays conservatives are like the manly ones and liberals are the pussy ones, but it hasn't always been like that. So, even in families, for example, in my family, I'm not here to diss on my family or anything. I think they're very good, virtuous, amazing people. But they have a coward mindset. And I don't blame them because they were raised in the Soviet Union, my parents. Soviet Union was literally communist. So there's but this doesn't apply to just those kinds of families. It applies to your family, like most even like Western families. And there's usually one or a couple of people in that family who start taking risks. And they usually get black sheeped. So they get, singled out and everyone thinks they're a bad person. Now you watching this video tells me that most likely you might be that guy because you're doing something really unusual. Like, why are you watching me? It's not supposed to happen. I'm not a conventional guy that people watch. I talk about some crazy things, like unusual things. So you are probably that guy. The problem is when you are that guy in an environment where everybody's got that communist mindset, everyone's going to try to pull you down. Oh, don't do this. It's unsafe. Oh my God, you fail again. See, you fail again. Ha! You're going to get laughed at. Your failures are going to get inflated and your successes are going to get deflated. That's what happens to me. I'm not even going to brag. I've done some cool things. And yet every single time I'm in a family gathering when I go to my home country, everybody makes fun of me because I haven't finished uni. What the hell would I finish uni? I'm making a bunch of money, more than... Okay, I'm getting into bragging again. You know what? I don't care. I'm making more money than anybody I've ever met my age. I got businesses going, making a good amount. I know more than most people who go to uni because they're morons. People who go to uni aren't smart these days. So why the hell would I go to uni? But they will make something up. Yeah, you have to go to uni because if once you get the degree, then that means you would have learned discipline. That means you would have been with discipline. I'm a world champion. Right, that was a lie. I'm a national champion. Why would I learn your BS? And you run into these situations a lot. And what I've been doing here is I've been giving you some subliminal messages. Because the solution to this is to actually be as arrogant as possible. And look, you're all going to get pissed, but let me rephrase that. I would say more unconventionally confident, not arrogant. You need to be unusually confident. Because it's impossible to really retain confidence when everyone around you keeps telling you you're a loser. So you need to have you need to be an outlier where you say, I am the smartest man in the world. Because that's the only way you're going to justify to yourself making the decisions that you're going to be making. It's the only way you're going to convince yourself to start a business that you're not supposed to start. You understand? You need to say, I have the toughest mind in the world, and you should go walk into a martial arts gym. Even if you lose 1,000 times, I don't give a damn. I have an iron mind. Why would I care? You just keep going back. Do you understand what I mean by arrogance, by confidence now? Every time I say this, I'm like, I'm a genius. I'm better than 99.99% of people in my demographic. I'll say, bro, I'm a genius. I literally control this stuff. Like, you're all my bitches. I say stuff like this once in a while. And I don't say it in a braggy way because you can tell I'm not a very serious guy. Like, for me, it's all just jokes. I don't actually truly believe those things. But a part of me does. A part of me thinks they might be true. Just the small idea of you being the smartest man on the planet being true Having that small thing in your mind will allow you to do things that 99% of people wouldn't do. And here's the funny thing. What the hell is the difference? If you think you are the smartest guy in the world and you start doing all these things, what's going to happen is some of them will succeed just by the law of numbers. If you spin the lottery thing like 1,000,000,000 times, you'll land it at some point. You keep starting businesses. You keep applying for jobs you're not qualified for. At some point, it's gonna hit. Boom, you're gonna start making money. You're gonna start getting respect because you would have done the right thing at the right time for your right skill set. So now you are a genius because you found the thing that you are a genius in, and that everybody has one of those. It's a difficult life, man. It's a difficult life being a person who thinks like us, from a Muslim world, from a Muslim family. And the thing is, this has nothing to do with Islam. You know, if all the Islamic people were like this, there would have never been the golden age of Islam. The Sahaba wouldn't have gone and done what they did. They would be like, oh no, I'll play it safe because I need to obey my parents. I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to go to uni. Instead of fighting for the cause. Of course, it's unsafe. Who would tell someone in that time to fight for the cause of Islam? It was a controversial idea. It was a weird thing at the time. So, in order to do anything exceptional, you need to go against what people will say, will think, how they want you to act. That's the bottom line of this video. Now, share this video around. Give me 5 stars if you can. And yeah, give me a comment below. Say something nice just to pump up my ego a bit.